That's a beautiful color, what you see now, this construction of 2000 years ago, nearly. And this is the result of what you see now, the front of the Colosseum, of a pretty long restoration. And the restoration hasn't finished. You see this from the scaffolding, you will see some more scaffolding somewhere else in the building. What happened here? They decided to clean, first of all, the travertine. Have you ever heard this word before? The travertine is expensive, I heard. Yeah. Also here, don't worry. Anyway, this is exactly the same material you see now in front of you. And well, it's incredible, but when the Colosseum was conceived in the neighborhoods of Rome, quarries already existed, of course, and the Romans, the emperors, they wanted the Colosseum to be built here. They even built a road on purpose to bring every single block of travertine all the way from here to Rome. So that was one of the first things that were done. Colossal building, isn't it? Not bad, Wow. And now to clean all this, you know, it takes a long time. So they have done every single inch of the Colosseum outside, and they are proceeding now with the inner part by hand, literally, using water, spraying water with special tools and very high, you know, pressure, exactly, and then brushing. Like you do in the morning with a toothbrush, but anyway, the toothbrush, it's not exactly the same, and they're using brushes of very many different sizes, including the size of our toothbrush. Well, why I'm telling you all this, not because the restoration is only because it's one of the most important ever made in Italy and in the Colosseum, but because this restoration also, you know, gave us very many surprises. Because, you know, cleaning and restoring a building, you find new things. So for instance, now I show you a little bit. The gates that you see here in front of you on our street level, obviously, were the gates used by the audience. Now we only use 2 of them, and 1 for the exit. The Romans used in total, the ancient Romans, 76 entrances. In total, they were 80. They don't exist anymore, all the 80 ones. A big part of the Colosseum collapsed a century ago, and you will see this later. Then from here, if you go to the right hand side of this arch, you should be able to read numerals. There is an L and there are 3 lines. I know, you all know this is, of course, 53. On some archways, some arches, the numerals are pretty easy to recognize and to read. Over there is one of the best preserved. Well, going all the way down, from here, we are in the sector of the 50s. The numbers decrease, so 40, 30 and so on. Going all the way around, recently during the restoration they found the original color that was used to paint the numerals, and it was red. So it's when you go to the stadium now that you need to know which is your entrance, because there were so many, and everybody before coming to the Colosseum for any kind of show, they already had a ticket with them. They used, and this ticket had on it painted very important bits of information, such as the numerals, of course, of the gate, and the levels on which people could, according to their status, and according also to the fact if they were women or men, they will tell you this, they could sit in one of the 5 levels of the Colosseum. But that's one of the surprises of the recent restoration. Well, this is not the only one. The man that built Colosseum. O the tods, sì. No, non so chi sia. Sorry guys. I see the wonders, yes, but this is, you have to go to the, have you been to the meeting point?
We went up there, there was nobody up there.
Because you arrived later. I'm sorry, guys.
We're just up there.
I'm sorry, I cannot do anything. I don't have the tickets. Are you sure they're not there?
They should be where, up here in the middle?
Up here, up here. The meeting point is this way. You have to go all the way across and up. But if you try and get the tickets, maybe you can enter later and you find me by the meeting point. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. We go. Now. I thought it was some control. Guys. So friends, now finally we're entering. Okay, before going, I please ask you, okay, if you want with the trolley, there is that other entrance. Please open your bags.
Male come al solito, sotterranei di che ora? Aspetta. Io qui sto non mi muovo, buonissimo.
Posso dare, vero?
Borse e giacca. E buon lavoro.
One by one, please.
Sì. Allora, tanto il signore lì col passeggino poi lo fanno passare i miei colleghi.
Non passare niente, accelerato.
Attenzione con la sciarpa verde.
Grazie.
The explanation, of course, we have plenty of time, don't worry. Guys, only one thing, see people using the selfie sticks, it's forbidden, so please don't, if it's possible, be clear. Okay guys, take your time.
Okay, ja. Ja, nee, die...
Okay. So when you come back, please come also to me because I'm giving you another sticker for your collection. Prego.
Grazie.
Prego, prego, that's for you. That's for you. Oh, the sound. Oh, sorry. So, prego. Other questions? No? No? No questions?
Why the cross?
Why the cross? Thank you. Okay, one question has arrived. I will answer it. Why the question? It's prego. Other question? That's it? Prego.
Yeah.
No, you have it, you have it. Sorry guys. Who hasn't got it?
Go ahead.
Okay, the what?
Thank you.
Ok, prego, prego. The? Sì, arriva. Unfortunately, only have 2 hands for me. Prego. Prego. Prego.
Here, please.
Eccola, prego. Come no?
Another one. Here.
Actually, where was the seat? Or where were the main seats for the so-called authorities? Well, apparently in the shade of us. Main entrances to the Colosseum. It's behind me. It's behind me. Well, according to... Hold on, I also very loud. You can't hear me anymore? I can hear. You can hear me? No. You can hear me, others?
Yes.
Alright. No. Now? Is it working? There were 2 entrances for the most important people in Roman society. And one was just in front of us. And the other one actually is the one on the other side of the Colosseum, which corresponds, by the way, to the exit nowadays. Well, do you know why we know this? Because first of all, those are the 2 gates on the short axis of the arena. What you have seen just in front of you, you will reach it in a moment, is what we call the arena of the Colosseum, and what was under the stage. What has remained is what was under the stage. Emperors and important people didn't need to come with tickets to the Colosseum, so they just entered walking through the gate over here. Well, what happened to the other gate? Well, that was presumably the most used by the emperors in very many centuries, because we know about the presence of a tunnel built underground that connected the Colosseum directly with the palace of the emperors. So even if the archaeologists are still talking about which walls the majority now is thinking that they all we will see this much better from the stage anyway. But I have another little thing to show you here. Besides the horse, that's a horse. Excavated some years ago outside of the Colosseum. I was positioned here because of the importance of this passage. Look up. Over here we still have some traces of what we call simply a stucco decoration. Now the Colosseum had a wonderful decoration area. Now you're seeing the skeleton of the building, and you're seeing the ruin of the ruin, by the way. The Colosseum was absolutely outstanding. And if you imagine this, everywhere, especially by the low level of the building, where rich people sat, where important people in Roman society normally took place, you can understand actually how it was stuck. That was copied then in the Renaissance in very many cases by very many artists. And also here, to the right hand side, you see another little part of this. These walls are touching, my dear friends, absolutely are not original. And you will see really many of these. These were completely rebuilt in the 19th century during some other restorations. Now, friends, with me, please. Now, it's important that we stay together.
Carissimo.
Has had what's happening? No, I will tell you later. Also, thank you for the question. I will, if they killed people in here only, not exactly. It happened that they done. Has had very many lives. back to the age of Michelangelo. It's a long time, and people lived in Rome using not only the Colosseum, but especially the Colosseum to come and enjoy theaters at the time. Well, after the fall of the Roman Empire, disappeared like the majority of the Roman buildings, but Rome, as you know, lost its very big importance. And by the way, Rome, as you know, with the decision of Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, was no longer the capital of the Roman Empire. It was Istanbul, it was what we call Constantinople. And well, this city started to decline, definitely. The worst time for Rome, one of the very many terrible crises, was in the Middle Ages. You can imagine the Colosseum was used as a quarry of travertine. Yes, it was. In the so-called Dark Ages, when not so many people lived in Rome anymore. Just imagine that in Roman times, you can come closer, guys. When the Colosseum was built, we had in Rome over 1 million inhabitants. And this gives you an idea of what a city this could have been. And I often say also, remember, if you want to have a good idea of how Rome really was, imagine a city similar to Calcutta in India or New Delhi. This is extremely precise to make a comparison. Well, that very big city did not exist anymore. Ciao, ciao. Sì. Sei tu? Ascoltami, io ho, guarda, ho perso qualcuno. Io ho 18 persone, nel senso che dovevano essere, aspetta un attimo, just a moment guys, dovevano essere di più uno, so, excuse me guys, this is the man opening the gate to us, this is why I had to tell him how many it was. So I told you about the very many moments of Rome, and the reason why Rome is in such conditions, especially the Colosseum, you see the holes, you see the missing parts, you see the parts that destroyed, it's simply because it started to be used as a quarry of material, as a place where to get, you know, material to be used somewhere else, very, very long ago. And this dismantling of the Colosseum, the plundering of the Colosseum, actually didn't last a couple of days. It was something that went on from the 6th century of our age, non-stop, until the 18th century. It's a long time. And now we come to another life of the Colosseum, to another new rebirth of the Colosseum. There was a Pope. You know, you're in the city of the Pope, so you have been to many of you to the Vatican, you know, the importance of the Pope now is, of course, if you consider the religious importance of the pontiff, it's very different from what it was originally. Well, a Pope saved the Colosseum, definitely from definitive plundering, and this was in 1749. So what happened that day? The Colosseum was considered in that year, excuse me, a holy place, a sacred place, and this saved the place forever. What does it mean? Nobody could come to the place touching any stone, because it was considered the place where Christians suffered for executions. And now, my friend, we are coming to your question. This is not exactly precise. This was a big misunderstood of the past. This is not where Christians were killed in the persecutions. That's where the criminals were killed in the persecution. But this was completely confused in the centuries. They didn't know, but thank God they didn't know, because they put crosses and chapels in the Colosseum, and they made this, by the second half of the 18th century, an holy place. And still, the Colosseum is a holy place. Now, just a second, guys, that I adjust things with my friend.
Posso prendere il simbolo, grazie.
No, avete il tuo nome? Alessandro, non mi ricordo mai.
Nice to meet you all.
Now, friends, we have one archaeologist from the Colosseum whose name is Alessandro. I'm giving the microphone to him.
Thank you.
These are the rules of the Colosseum. Prego, now it's your time. Stay always with us. I will be with you, don't worry. Facciamo un sound check, per favore. Vediamo se tienilo abbastanza altino. Ok, scusami se te lo dico, ma conosco i miei microfoni. Abbiamo un bambino piccolo.
Ah, perfetto, quindi useremo poi. Io sfortunatamente non posso entrare io nell'ascensore, però gli spiego
Vado,
come
vabbè.
funziona.
Ok, va bene, va bene. Ok.
Ok. E dovremmo aspettare, anzi addirittura, perché visto. Allora, voi quanti dovete essere all'inizio?
Dovevamo essere 23 mi pare, ma siamo 18 alla fine.
Ok, quindi già dall'inizio qualcuno ne era venuto,
No.
perché di singoli a parte io ho solo questa ragazza, però aspetterei un minuto per vedere se arriva.
Ok, va bene, vai avanti. Non ho ancora
Ok,
parlato
intanto vi
neanche
dico-
della Domus Aurea.
Ah,
cioè,
perfetto,
ho parlato
perfetto.
proprio delle fasi generali del Colosseo.
Ok, intanto poi gli spiego come funziona il tour, quanto prende di tempo,
Sì,
tanto
va
già lo sapranno però.
No, non ho
Ah, ok,
specificato.
ok, adesso vi dico. So guys, nice to meet you all. I'm Alessandro, your guide, and let me sum up the stages of our tour. We are gonna visit the arena floor, then we move to the underground section, then we go uppermost to the third level. Okay, it will take almost 1 hour and 15 minutes. Vabbè, se arriva qualcun altro tanto me lo porteranno, ma non credo. Ok, we can start now, and you can follow me, we go this way. Let's go up first. Okay guys, so we can go this way, we make a little introduction. So first of all, welcome to the most iconic monument of the Imperial Rome. The first thing to be pointed out is this. The real name of the Colosseum, it was not the Colosseum, because its real name is the Flavian Amphitheatro, Amphitheatro Flávio in Latin. Flavian because the imperial dynasty of the Flavians, they built up the structure. And what's an amphitheater? You know, a theater is a semi-elliptical shaped structure, but from the ancient language amphi, it means bow. So this way means the complete ellipse shape. We are now in a valley among three hills. Silian Hill, Palatine Hill, Esquiline Hill. The Rome is built upon 7 main hills. And this was the first zone the Romans used to dwell since the foundation of the city in 753 before Christ. Exactly in this way, this is where now the Colosseum stands. There was the residence of the Emperor Nero. Of course, you know Nero. That scary dude who set Rome on fire. Actually, it's just a legend because at the time of the fire, he was not in Rome, he was in Amphitheatro. But he took the opportunity to blame the Christians for the fire anyway, and to put up a new residence for himself on the devastated area, Domus Aurea, Golden House. He used to build in ivory and gold. Exactly in this place there was the lake he made to embellish his gardens. He was hated. So when he died in the 68 AD, Vespasianus, the first of the Flavians, he wanted to give back this zone to the Romans, and he started the construction of the Colosseum in the 72 AD, thanks to the loot of the conqueror of Jerusalem of the 70 AD. It took almost only 10 years. In the 80 AD, that was inaugurated by his son and successor Titus, with 100 days of fights without any interruption. More than 5,000 animals were killed. It's with Domitian, the coolest man of the family, that the Colosseum turns into the very core of the Roman entertainment. First of all, guys, why this place is called the arena? What does arena mean? It means sand. But what sand was used for? It was used to suck out the blood, to absorb the blood, human and animal blood, but also to cover the trapdoors. Because you know the system by which they used to make the shows go on, it was a system of elevators and hoists from the underground section to the stage to lift up gladiators, animals, but also the props they needed to set up the sceneries. Okay, that's why we still call those places in Mexico and Spain arenas for the bullfights. We work on the reconstruction of a part of the arena floor, but we had to imagine it was complete. Take the first minutes for your first impression. That time, the only ones having their personal seat made in white marble with their names carved into. Second ring, it was for the knights, the horsemen, business class of the Roman society, and so on. Rich men, middle classes, until the uppermost level that was composed by a giant portico running all the way around with 80 columns and wooden seats. Nowadays it lacks, we just have to imagine it. It was for the least important part of the society. At that time they were the plebeians, poor people and women. They did it like this also to prevent women from distracting gladiators. You know, jealous noble husband, they used to keep the women uppermost because gladiators, they were nothing but pens. They were so massive, they were so jealous. Okay, so you can follow me, you can easily imagine how could they feel, because they had the opportunity to meet the high society. They had the senators, by the way, these are the white marble seats for the senators. Horsemen, they had 5 levels of 5 rings of screaming crowd all around. So impressive. Imagine also the choreography, the flowers coming down. I would like to show you also how the whole structure was provided with water. So many fountains and bathrooms, they were able to get the water uppermost by a system of inclines, boxes and pressure. See this canal, that goes all around the arena. The water comes from natural stream, the stream of Fossola Bicano. Get this corner. Sì, l'ho visto.
Mi piace troppo. Allora, guarda,
So guys, on the opposite side, we can take a look at the reconstruction of the top door. Remember these guys, animals and gladiators, they were taken mostly from the provinces of the empire. So I mean, Africa and Lower Asia. There were tigers, lions, bears, crocodiles, giraffes, pandas. It was the only opportunity for most of them to see a wild animal. And imagine the shock of a guy who faced for the first time, for example, a crocodile, especially because they could find out so suddenly in front of them or behind them a wild animal by the trapdoors. So why a gladiator is called like this? Because of the gladium. The gladium was the short sword, the same one used by the legionary soldiers. You know, Roman weapons, they were so advanced. Also, spikes, for example, they were meant to break once they got the target. This way it was impossible to the enemies reusing them against the Romans. Also metal. Since the handle was heavier than the tip, it was hard enough to stick, but also quite soft in order to curve. This way it was almost impossible trying to remove it. Okay. Thanks to the little sword, they didn't need to swing to blow the opponent, they were faster in striking. They were forced to have an end-to-end fight, and it was so necessary to the show, they couldn't refuse the fight, and especially if they got trapped into a net, they were at least able to try to cut it. Okay. But the gladiator, he was just a slave. He had no human rights. He was the own property of his manager. The manager, he was called the lanista in Latin. And the guy who used to take care about the organization of the shows, he was called the editor. In many cases, he was the emperor himself, or some politicians to make self-propaganda. Okay. As you can see, they had 4 main entrances. Take a look at these 2 big doors. That is the Porta Triumphalis in Latin, the door of the triumph, for winner gladiators, but also the door through which they used to enter the stage. On the opposite side, you can take a look at the door of Venus Libitina. She was the goddess taking care about healing ill and wounded people, also the door through which dead or injured gladiators were carried out. The other 2 main entrances, these 2 ones, they were used by the VIP of their time, so politicians, foreign ambassadors. The only women allowed to stay in the first level, they were the virgin vestals. They were a kind of female priest. They were so important. You know, when a guy who was sentenced to death met them, one of them, the day of the execution, he was set free. By the way, they were punished by being buried alive, this is so famous, if they were found out having contacts with men. The cross you see on the edge of the northern entrance is because the popes, they wanted to consecrate the arena to the Christians, and the imperial box, it was situated right there, because in the afternoon there is no sunlight. Take a look at my picture. 2 doors, they had podiums on the top for the speakers. Nowadays they are lost. And the imperial box, it was similar to a little temple. Okay, by the Colosseum they had so many structures and they were so useful for the activities. It was a kind of quarter. The main one, it was this. This is called the Ludus Magnus, and this was the gym for gladiators. See the little arena in the middle? It had a straight corridor in the underground section connecting the 2 structures. Gladiators, they were taken right here in the dungeons and they waited for the fights. They weren't given sharp weapons before the fights. It wouldn't be so wise. The emperors, they knew gladiators, they were a danger for the city, because it happened that an emperor called Vitellius, he took the leadership by recruiting gladiators in the narrow streets of the city. In end-to-end fights, they were almost invincible. So they didn't want them to stay any longer than the fighting season. This was also the house of most of them. A few people decided willingly to take the career of gladiator. They were recruited at the age of 17, 18 years old. Most of them, they were prisoners of war. They used to live together, train together, they respected each other. That's why the night before the fights, they used to have a kind of last common supper together, because the day after, someone could be supposed to kill a friend. Okay. So, you see many rooms, niches in the wall all around. They were used by the guardians, the keepers and the doctors. You know, the wall that separated the arena floor from the podium of the senators, it had a metallic net all around with elephant tusks, and the top, it was a rotating surface made in ivory. This way it was impossible trying to climb and escape. Even when they got it, there were a team of archers always aiming the arrows at the animals and gladiators, because they had to protect the senators. They were the closest ones to the stage. Any accident was paid so seriously. Imagine we watching our show with our presidents sitting on the first ring, no separations. One may be able to throw anything. tomatoes, eggs. And in Italy, this would happen for sure, no problem. So guys, before we go downstairs, you can have 2 minutes for pictures. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
Where those rocks are, where that ground
This is not rocks, this is cement.
Okay, so there were seats on top.
They were the seats on top. So the Colosseum was white inside, and there were seats as the ones you
Wood,
have seen
wooden
here.
seats, wooden benches.
The wooden benches were on top. The rest was everything was in marble.
So that's all been stolen.
Only to be set free. Since they were already skilled at fighting, they wanted this opportunity as the only hope to be set free one day. Yeah.
But
Many.
they wouldn't put them into the Roman army after they're set free. So that, you
Two
know,
ways. They had to stay alive until the age of 35, or it depended on the love by the crowd. The sooner they were loved, the sooner they were set free. You know, politicians, they knew Colosseum was the right place to manipulate the consent. So they couldn't do anything. If the crowd was asking for mercy, it wouldn't be wise. Denying
I
them.
just thought that would have put them into the Roman army from being set free, but otherwise they could be back dangerous.
Yeah, of
On the
course.
street.
Of course, yeah. Because they were a danger for the city, you know, they were dangerous people. So the sand, the floor, it was complete. It was a wooden floor withstood by wooden beams, but it was not simple sand. It was a mixture of ceramic powder and sand. This way it got harder, and since the ceramic contains some mineral spots, it was able to reflect the sunlight. So it was even
Very
beautiful
bright.
to be watched. You know, they had the kind of sand from Monte Mario in Rome. It was so beautiful to be watched because it was so shiny.
Is it true that they waterproofed it and actually had little
You are-
mock
you are
naval
well
battles?
informed. Yeah, you are well informed.
Well, if
You
it's
know,
true, I don't know if it's true.
nobody knows because, you know, this is a matter so it's in discussion also nowadays because the historical texts, they say so, but you know, they say at the beginning the Colosseum and not the underground section, it had only a lower arena, and they were able to float it by water by some canals from the uppermost levels. And by this kind of miniaturistic ships, they used to reenact some victories of the Roman navy over the seas, performing naval combats, but there is no certainty about it in this place. Even though in other places of Rome, it happened for sure.
But are we sure that it didn't happen here once the underground was built?
Yeah.
Like if it happened before all of this.
When it was only a lower arena and not the underground section, yeah.
And is it also true that we've got this backwards?
Maybe it was this one, but you know, many people, they say this was the signal to sentence to that because it symbolizes the uncovered sword, and this
Yes.
one put it in the cover. Or some of them, they say this was the signal to mean gladiator is under protection of the emperor, and this one to mean he has to follow his destiny. Maybe they changed it over the centuries, we don't know.
But either of those suggest that if the thumb is sticking up, that's no good.
This thing, usually this one is to
But they
communicate,
don't know if
set
how
them
it
free.
was actually. It was
Yeah.
We don't know.
We don't know.
You know, they had to protect also by this metallic net because we know this from the sources that an elephant once killed 25 people. You know, when an elephant is panicking because of the noise, runs everywhere around. So it was so dangerous.
Must have been fun for these, though.
You know, we also know that they used to take inspiration from real happenings. Once a giant whale was beached in Campania, so they reconstructed a giant whale by wood, and when the jaws were opening, 50 bears going out. Or once they put 100 lions on the stage and they were roaring so bad that the crowd, they shut up immediately.
Yeah.
It was so impressive. Remember this,
How many days
all
they lived
was
unhungry?
a spectacle.
How many days?
But the first people were really just 8 feet off the...
Senators.
Let them be eaten.
So I heard the madam ask a good question. How often did they perform the games and the fights? It depended on the occasions. For example, celebrating holidays, the emperor's birthday, also on the mentality of the emperor. For example, Commodus, he was addicted to fights. He's supposed to be the son of a gladiator, and his mother Faustina, you know, rich women, they paid a lot of money to spend their nights with gladiators. They were just like a kind of male prostitute. In many cases, they were hired up just like personal bodyguards by the politicians. You know, he used to keep the Colosseum open almost every day. He wanted to fight in the arena, but nobody knew gladiators, they had an arm broken before the fights. He wanted to face animals, but they were weakened by drugs before. Okay, now we can start going downstairs. Instead, right here we have two staircases used by the slaves to go straight to the underground section. So the most astonishing thing is how they were able to communicate from up to down without using radios at all. In a symmetrical position, we have two more of them on the opposite side. You might wonder the reason why there are so many holes in the monuments in Rome. Is because when the empire fell, they were no more able to go conquering, so they had to reclaim the materials from the former structures. They had to hammer the blocks to remove all the metal clamps. Metal hooks to build new weapons. Metal hooks, they were their system to get an earthquake-proof structure. Okay, so another reason when the church took over, by the way, they wanted to take the buildings from the empire and transfer them into their new buildings. So you find much of the marble of the Colosseum in the Barberini Palace, in the St. Peter's Church. You find the columns of the Forum of Caesar, they are now in the St. Peter's Church. Or the door that was in the Senate, in the Roman Forum, nowadays is in the San Giovanni Laterano's church. That was their way to create a bond of power between the empire and the church. Another kind of hole you can see between the bricks is this one. Poles placed at irregular distances between each other. They are only the spaces where they used to put the poles for the platforms of the scaffoldings during the construction. As well, when you see arches between bricks, they had no other purpose but download discharging the pressure. Okay, there were no windows inside. By the way, this is the largest size of the bricks, put in a vertical position. This is a little example of a metal hook, even though this is quite recent. This place is not so easy. It's the most recent created from building it was used by the slaves. It gives us a lot of information about the techniques of the Romans to build in building structures. For example, take a look at the arches. You know, by the way, architecture comes from arch. If you look at this kind of arches, it's not perfect, as you can expect, it's flat. You can take a look in the middle, you see the so-called keystone. Also, it sticks to the shape. Like the two diverging sides, it pushes on the sides of the arch, and you can stand forever like this. No ceiling, no angles. What's the problem? In many cases, what they need to do is that another kind of work you can see on the sides of the dogs is this one. They were used by the pincers of the wooden crate. Take a look, they were similar to other ones. By the system of the wheels and the ropes, they were able to multiply forces, and a few men were needed to create overlapping rows of blocks. You know, the Colosseum is built this way. Basements are made with giant blocks of travertine and tufa, local volcanic rocks. Middle sections are made in cement and bricks, and the structure is supposed to get lighter uppermost, as well as for the dome of the Pantheon. It's made with stones so much smaller than life. This is the corridor taken to the gym of gladiators. You know, they were taken right here, and they waited for the fights. So imagine the tension. As we go ahead, we can see the remains of the original floor. This one is called the opus spicatum because spica means sheaf of wheat. The herringbone pattern is because this way they didn't slide, even though this floor it was so wet. They are bricks put in a vertical position in the ground. Take a look at the giant keystones with the holes to be lifted up by the pieces. Okay guys, in this section I need your help please. I need some volunteers to cover the light by the feet please. Thank you so much. Just to show you how dark this place was. The guy had to go with an oil lamp. The lion was attracted by the human smell and light. He had to go backwards so slowly with two reliable guys behind him with the spikes. One more guy who was behind the lion. You know, in many cases, the animals, they didn't want to have the transition on the stage because it was so noisy and they used to fear the light. So the problem it was the punishment for embarrassing the emperor if something went wrong. It was being turned from the worker in the spectacle into the spectacle itself. You know what I mean? Roman society, it was so fierce. By the way, we have to remember that the Colosseum, it was a terribly smelling place. They had the animals, but they had also the blood with the heat. So they took care about giving people some oils, perfumes, aspersiones in Latin, to make them go up and try to make the atmosphere more livable because it was terrible. They also used to spray around some perfumes with ginger or wine, for example. The meat, the skins and the tusks of the animals, they were given for free to the crowd. It was a butchery by the Colosseum. They used to go over there asking for a free portion of meat. Flesh not good for eating was used to feed the other wild animals. We know from the historical texts that the animals, they used to carry in their paws or in their hair the seeds of the foreign plants. So in this section of the Colosseum, it used to grow up peppermint from Egypt or plants from Lower Asia. Okay. Now let me show you something right there. Now guys, I would like you to notice how the floor is tilted to make the water go on the side and you feel the incline from the side to the sewers. Take a look, the sewers, they still work. This level is the result of the sediments over the centuries. It was deeper than this. This is called the donkey back floor. What you see right here, they are the corridors with the spaces for the elevators. As you can see, the stones, they have a little arch at the bottom because they were the spaces for the ropes, the cables of the railway for the clocks. So what about gladiators? You know, there were the heavier ones, the lighter ones. Heavier ones, they had 4 kilos helmets on their heads with not good side view. It was for the shock because they were so well protected, they could strike hard, but they couldn't move around so easily. They had a frontal opening in the helmet because it was so important keeping the eye contact with the crowd. And so many feathers and wings on the helmets. Why so? Mainly to scare the opponent to look more impressive, yes, but they were just like numbers on the shirts of our players in any sport. They had to be recognizable from far apart. Lighter ones, they were almost naked. They had only a pad running from the arm to the neck, trident and a fish net to try to trap the opponent or to make him slide and stick it. They were able to move around so easily, yeah, but when they got cut, they got cut. So, when the defeated gladiator was lying on the ground, he had the sword of his opponent pointed at the throat. Actually, it was up to the crowd, deciding if they had to stay alive or die. If they wanted to set them free, they used to scream, "Mite!" That means, send him away, alive. By the way, the more they showed not to care about dying, the more they were respected. So the defeated one used to throw away the shield, lift the left hand finger, hoping for mercy. At the contrary, if they wanted to sentence him to death, they used to scream, "Jugula, Jugula!" That's why that means slaughter, cut the throat. That's why we call the vein jugular from jugularis. Okay, so piercing the jugular, it was their quick and merciful way to kill someone they respected, because they would pass out into a few seconds out of the bleeding. And the one impression body of the shows, they were so fierce. For example, they had two referees. One of them, he was dressed like Mercury, and the other one, he was dressed like Karun. Karun was the god taking the souls to the afterlife. So one, he was in charge of communicating the result of the fight to the crowd. He used to put the hands in this position. The signal was to communicate the gladiator was actually dead. By the way, they would test it before by being touched with an hot iron. You know why? Also, people sitting in the uppermost levels, they had to be sure, because they used to put bet on the fights a lot. No time for removing the helmet and throw. So the easiest way was touching them with the hot iron. The other referee, he had a giant hammer in his hands. You know what he had to do with it? In many cases, they used to simulate the drop to hell by the trapdoors. Something similar to what you can see in the movie Ghost, for example. Okay, it was a spectacle anyway. Also, people in charge to carry away the corpses, they were dressed like the hell demons. Okay.